we seek comfort at all costs. Don't go to the gym. It's going to expend too much energy. Don't eat that salad. Not enough calories.
Right.
Better off with the ice cream. You don't know when you're going to get your next meal. We didn't have couches 500 years ago.
Right. The idea of that leisure.
It's this perpetual circle.
It's a perpetual circle. Ever increasing desire with ever diminishing return. So there's less pleasure. So we are wired to want more and we get less out of it.
From it.
And so there's this thing where we're just so hungry. We're just hungry for something that doesn't sate us because it doesn't challenge, it doesn't connect, it isn't real, it isn't meaningful.
Well, that thing we used to chase for 5 million years on Earth was an apple.
Dad could have just wrote a check.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course. With insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today.
Joe Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan and host of the Hard Way podcast. I've got a friend of mine, an amazing guest, Zackary Paben, more heart than scars. He legitimately is more heart than scars. He also runs around in a kilt. He's an absolute maniac. He reminds me of Mad Max. and he gets folks that are out there, I don't want to say broken,
right,
but they might need a little uplift.
Yeah.
And he helps get them through our courses for at least 10 years now. 11 years.
Yeah. I was looking at my pop-up thing you didn't advertise last year for 11 years. Like, it's 11. I mean, it was 10 years ago. It's now 11 years. It's going faster. The older we get, the quicker and quicker it goes.
We got to go backwards in time because I'm having so much fun on the planet. I do not want to leave.
I'm enjoying it more and more than I ever have before. And there's so many cool things that I want to do and get done. And, you've got young kids. I've got a 14-year-old and you've got younger. And so just trying those things with their kids and trying to have those incredible experiences to connect. Now I just lost my dad. I'm thinking a lot about what is my legacy? How am I being a parent to my kids?
So let's go back to ancient Sparta.
Yeah.
The ancient Spartans said, don't ever discuss legacy. Don't think about it. Don't plan for it. Just do a great job now. And it just unfolds. It happens. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Right.
If you're in the moment doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, the next right thing comes along, but you got to do. The bike does not steer if you don't pedal. You have to pedal it every day.
You got to do the work and you got to do good work. And the other thing they said, which I'd love to talk to you about, is better than us. Mm-hmm. The ancient Spartans didn't say much. They didn't write down much, but they were very succinct when they did say something. Better than us meant the next generation has to be better than us. Right.
Right.
We took the bullets, in their case, the spears and the arrows.
That's right.
So that they don't have to.
Yeah. How do you pass that on when you look at when you say things like the greatest generation? Our grandparents were the greatest generation. So when you look at that, you're like, what do you do with that information? How do you stack up to that? And where are the enemies and where do you go from there? If the Nazis were the problem, now it's like
the ultimate enemy is complacency.
Now the problem is within us.
We are the enemy.
We are the enemy. We have created a situation where in that comfort, we have shackled ourselves in a way that is in a nice, comfy cocoon called that couch, where you just disconnect from everyone. You think you're being connected because you're on your phone watching a screen. You're watching a screen while sitting next to somebody else that's disconnected. And when you're in that matrix, I mean, Elon Musk said, we're in a matrix and like a big future concept. I'm saying we're in a self-imposed allegory of the cave, Plato, right here, right now. The shadows on the walls are the screens in our hands.
The way I think about it, we haven't changed. Our species hasn't changed. I didn't know this, but we seek comfort at all costs. And more than sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And the reason we seek it is it's kept us alive on the planet. We don't fall off cliffs. We don't freeze to death. We don't starve to death, right? We don't go out in a desert without water. Like our brain is constantly setting off red flags, flipping the circuit breaker, saying, don't do that. Don't go to the gym. It's going to expend too much energy. Don't eat that salad. Not enough calories.
Right.
Better off with the ice cream. You don't know when you're going to get your next meal. So we haven't changed as a species. Our environment has changed. We didn't have couches 500 years ago.
Right. The idea of that leisure. What are you doing with your leisure? And that wasn't even a thing. Right. So now we're in a situation where our brain is in that the stress hormone comes in and tells us, oh my God, I'm being chased by a bear. And so your body's going to throw up or it's going to lock in. You're going to fight. You're going to freeze. You're going to get into that fight. But we have those stressors of the bills, the connections, relationships, even things on social media that aren't even real that is triggering us. but we're not fighting any actual bear.
No physical response.
There's no physical response to it. So we're in this constant heightened sense. And then we feel bad about it. You know, when I finish a Spartan race, I mean, I want to go to Five Guys. I do. I should be eating healthier, but I want the big, after I've done, especially a beast. Yeah. If I've been pushing a wheelchair through a race for 15 to 18 to God knows how many horrible miles you've concocted, yeah. I want to eat that. I want to eat that protein, that fat, and all that yummy stuff. But I've earned that. I mean, I've earned that multi-calorie meal. But we have people that feel like they've done a Spartan when they haven't. They're living in fear.
They're going to Five Guys with no beast.
No beast. There's no beast in front of it.
They go couch to Five Guys.
That's the Five Guys. And they eat it and they haven't burned the stuff and they're not even to replenish it. So they just get in that, they get a high, a dopamine hit for a moment. And then it begins to settle and sink into it. And then it's extra.
We got to start a t-shirt campaign that says earn your Five Guys.
Earn your Five Guys. Or earn your couch. I mean, that's the whole thing we're talking about is how do we, you've been talking about ripping people off the couch and you've gotten between 5 and 10 million, depending on how you're looking at it. And you were definitely rip the Band-Aid off guy, which I love that about you. And it's also a struggle being, you and I have been interacting with each other for over a decade now. And, I'll come to you like, hey, how are you doing? And usually you're like, great. Okay, cool. What's the next thing? And the things you've asked me to do
are crazy.
You called me up one time after Michael pulled a ton vehicle behind him for 100 yards. And you go, hey, congratulations, Mike. Is Zach on there? And take a look. Hey, Joe, what's going on? I want you to go to Wales. When? Tomorrow. And he said to me, your charity's never going to grow until you go international. You don't know if this idea is going to work. So I quit my job. I got on the stuff and I went over there with a carabiner and a small budget, found an adaptive athlete, took him through, recreated what we're doing. But that was a heck of a challenge. Yeah. There was no hand holding in this. I got on the plane from you because if you know Joe, you don't get a lot. If you're actually close to him, there's not a lot of clear communication sometimes. I got on the plane. I was like, are you sure? You sent me a smiley face. I got a smiley face. I get on the plane to go to London. And I get there. And I've lost a few things pursuing this dream. So in relationship. So the woman that I was married to at the time was like, we don't have anything. You got to go find Joe in London. And then you're supposed to get some money to get going. Yeah. You got to go find him. So I'm on the plane with nothing. And I ended up meeting an American in the back of the plane because he was standing up too. And he was an English professor and a mountain biker. And we were both standing and stretching in the back. And he goes,
nice.
Oh, you got to get to London. How are you going to do that? I don't know. I said, maybe you can ride with me. And so I hitched a ride from the airport, ending up to where you were. And you're like, all right, so I need you to go and talk to everybody in Wales, everybody about Spartan races. Yeah. Go.
And you got it done.
Yeah, we got it done. And it wasn't so much about the numbers because you were interested more about reputation and connection and relationships. Yeah. That's a common theme for you. Like somebody there wasn't representing the brand the way that you wanted it. And you wanted somebody that you felt
could get it done,
could show up.
Yeah.
That's incredibly important as far as building those things. So I know it's how you parent. It's probably how you husband a little bit. It's certainly how you friend. It's how you run your company, is that you definitely push people and believe they can exceed what's asked of them.
Everybody can do what seems to be impossible. There's that great study where they took the fleas and put them in a jar and they put the cap on, and then they unscrew the cap, and the fleas and the next generation of fleas don't go above where the cap was. So we put these false horizons, these ceilings on ourselves on what's possible. And I just throw out ridiculous requests to people like you. Yes. And I say, like, you don't have to do it. Mm-hmm. You could do it. And that somehow gets people to jump a little above the feeling that they had on them, right? You had no plans of going to Wales.
No. I mean, now I have the Welsh Dragon. It's on my arm.
You got the Welsh Dragon on your arm.
I mean, it was a life-changing experience, showing up there, walking around village to village, finding an adaptive athlete with just a carabiner and making those connections. And I realized the idea of more heart than scars transcended America. Transcended English barrier, because they have more continents. A word in Wales is just forever long. And trying to find your way around, and you're like, I need you to get to all these gyms. So I was walking and riding on the bus, riding on the train to find every gym I could find and say, hey, come. And I found a bunch of gym rats. Nice. They were interested. And they were like, we're not really sure. But we were going to help this guy named Snowy
get to
the race. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. And so these guys showed up and wrapped around that idea. And that's what got them moving, because it was thinking about somebody else. The way off the couch, the way out of sadness is doing for others. It seems the only way that we can get outside of us is to put other people first. The more ridiculous the setting,
Well, think about it. I mean, the couch is comfortable. Netflix is comfortable. So most times you don't want to get off for yourself.
Right.
But if you're called to task to go help somebody else, it's hard to say no. You're embarrassed.
Right.
You want to do the right thing.
And especially if it comes to our children, we want to set that example that are they going to move forward? So my dad was a TV guy. So I'm from here. I grew up in St. Louis. We moved to Florida when I was 9. My dad worked for Disney World.
Oh, nice.
So we were driving by. I got tickled because I've lost him a year and a half ago. He actually, when he worked for Disney, he dedicated the airport here. He did a huge bird release. He did spectacular shows. He did Super Bowl 18, 21, and 35. He directed those Super Bowl halftime shows. And he opened up the Orlando airport, and he did a huge bird release. And those, as you go along the places to park, and when you drop people off, they have those overhangs. Well, when he did a pigeon release, they actually ended up nesting in the place. It caused troubles and flights and everything. But I was giggling like, okay, Dad, I'm driving past your work. So having him as this bigger than life show director guy, sitting beside him at the Super Bowl. And I think about with your struggle to figure out how, or if you're a big influence on the world, how do you empower your children to be stronger without spoiling them, but giving them the opportunity?
It's a tough one. I mean, what's that saying, right? Hard men make soft times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Soft times. It's this perpetual circle.
It's a perpetual circle.
I've manufactured some adversity with our children, but it's manufactured at best. It's not like we're living in the favela in Brazil and we're battling, right?
Right. That's not happening.
So you do the best you can, but you are, somebody said to me recently, the biggest problem with my son, they said, is my 5-car garage.
Yeah.
Not my 5, but the person that was telling me. And that's the problem. Here we are, we're chasing success. We're chasing bigger and bigger couches, more and more TVs. Mm-hmm. And that next generation that we're supposed to be leveling up and making them obstacle proof, anti-fragile, the opposite is happening.
The absolute opposite. So C.S. Lewis, very smart guy, wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, Mere Christianity, variety of books. He said this about sin, and I don't want to hurt people's feelings about sin, but if you take a sin as like separation from the will of God or good orderly direction, he said it's ever increasing desire with ever diminishing return. So there's less pleasure. So we are wired to want more, and we get less out of it.
From it.
And so there's this thing where it's just so hungry. We're just hungry for something that doesn't sate us because it doesn't challenge, it doesn't connect, it isn't real, it isn't meaningful.
Well, that thing we used to chase for 5 million years on Earth was an apple.
Sure.
Or an antelope.
Yes.
Right.
There was a purpose in the struggle. Right. You're going to struggle and you're going to bring something home.
You get to eat.
I think when I had my accident, my dad's response to it was, his father wasn't really around. He was my dad was originally an English professor before he started a teacher for theater before he became working for Disney. And so he read all these great things. So he thought about, how can I be the best dad I can in this moment? So I come back from the hospital, my hands are, because I had to break my wrist, and my hands are tied up over my head. And then the first day I came back from St. Louis down to Florida, my dad said, well, you got to take the trash out. I'm like, I got to take the trash. How am I going to take the trash out? He goes, I don't know. You still have your chores. I mean, you still got to take the trash out. And my mom was in the room crying. I thought my dad was the biggest asshole in the universe. Like, how can you tell? He's like, no, you still need to do your chores. And so I begrudgingly got up, opened up the door with my elbows, pushed my nose on the garage door, kicked the trash on the ground, and then kicked it from one can to the other out of the kitchen. It was like a 45 minutes. I was mad. I was pissed. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was cruel. I didn't understand it. The next day it was 40 minutes. The next day it was 30 minutes. The next day it was 15 minutes. Nothing changed with my hands.
Your mind changed.
My mind changed. And so there was like, you're still going to do, even though something has happened to you. And so when I was at Outward Bound and I needed to become a mountain guide without fingertips, they didn't change I needed to tie this many knots. Right. I needed to repel and escape this many ways.
For Zach, there'll be no ropes.
It's like, I'll take a lower rope. But so I had to go all through those things just as somebody else who wasn't injured. That is a profound shift. And so when I think about inheritance from my father, you still got to do the work is what he would say. And anytime I had a problem, like when my little girl had heart defect, that's why part of the name, The More Hard Than Scars, comes from, because of her heart defect. And so when I was working at a group home, we got the bill in for the first month. It was $1,000 for her. And I was like, what am I going to do? And of course, my dad was a successful guy. And he said to me, you're smart, you're creative, you know how to hustle, you'll figure it out. He said, I could write a check to temporarily solve the problem, but it's not going to really solve the problem. You're smart, you're creative, you know how to hustle, you'll figure it out. So I picked up a job at the YMCA. Love it. Being a lifeguard, I picked up a job doing part-time construction work, and I worked at the group home. And it is in that place that I created More Heart Than Scars, in that pain. And so as things had gone on and I'd have more struggles to come up, and when I was younger, I think, well, maybe my dad could help me. But then I would think whenever I had a problem, I was like, well, I'm smart, I'm creative, I know how to hustle. That is the greatest gift we can do for our children, is to give them the ability to believe in themselves, to believe they can actually do something, and then test them and let them suffer. It had to be incredibly difficult. Dad could have just wrote a check.
By the way, and you know this, you and I are both parents. We want to instinctually jump in.
Yes.
We want to protect. Probably, again, because if we think back to, 10, 20,000 years ago, we would jump in front of the lion.
Yeah.
But it's not a real lion anymore.
No, that's not a real lion.
It's not a real lion. These are superficial, silly obstacles that we can creatively get through.
We could.
But we jump in front of them as parents, as adults. We completely take away that opportunity for that young child to learn how to solve problems and get the benefit of how good it feels to solve a problem.
And to be clear, my dad wasn't a monster. He said to me, you're never going to go hungry. You can always come home, but you got to make your own home. I want to empower you to make your own place. You can come home to rest and recover, but you need to get back out there and earn your own place.
I love it.
And that was a whole different shift. So, you and I wouldn't have had the relationship we had if had my dad let me wallow in it.
Exactly. Let's talk about fentanyl. You and I were having a little conversation before we got in this room, and I don't know much about it. I'm not big, outside of watching Narcos once in a while.
Right.
I'm not big on the whole drug scene, but fill me in.
Well, I became a drug addict because of my accident at 10. They were putting me on a schedule for morphine and Dilaudid and different things along the way. And so pills and alcohol, I figured out in between my surgeries. The challenge of the type of amputation I had at age 10 was bones grow, scars don't. So the amputation happened at 10, but I'm like, hey, I'm 14. What are we gonna do this summer? Oh, you're getting another surgery. They'd have to keep reopening the ends of my finger, grind the bone back and redo it until I stopped growing. And so that system of re-traumatizing, and I didn't have words. We only had, from the military, you would think of shell shock. Well, I wasn't a veteran, but it was recreating the PTSD. So I experienced getting hooked on painkillers and not being able to sleep and taking shots to be able to sleep. Man, we came from a pretty affluent background. There was a bar in the house. You could drink it. So from our generation, you mix alcohol, you mix painkillers, you can go to sleep, you can shut things down. And I had some misadventures of, like, I think I'm just smoking pot, but it turns out somebody had laced it with angel dust, which was a horrible experience and could kill you. But it's more than it's more that cautionary tale. Bob tried some angel dust and he tried to fly off the building. With fentanyl, it's 10,000 times more powerful than basic heroin.
And fentanyl is this new thing in the sense that it's being laced.
It's a manufactured version of heroin, which is morphine. Morphine, heroin, they're the same family, but they managed to chemically do it in a way that's 10,000 times more powerful than basic street heroin. It's used to, within the smallest precision, with an anesthesiologist and a doctor there, and you're all strapped in and ready to go, to slow your breathing down, your pain, to take you unconscious, to have surgery. And in that way, it's effective. In a kid's kitchen, it's a killing machine. So it's so much cheaper to get fentanyl. They set it up as here it is for the hospitals, but then it gets turned into a generic version that gets sent around the world. And now people are getting it and they're lacing marijuana with it. They're lacing that you're thinking you're getting, I'm just going to be able to take a painkiller. I'm just getting a plain old Oxycontin. Fentanyl makes Oxycontin look like not a big deal.
My problem, it just drives me nuts when I hear stuff like this, because I say to myself, we've obviously got these issues we're trying to deal with Ukraine and Russia and Israel, or you name the problem globally, but like we overstuff our next generation with shitty foods, Oreos and ice cream. We kill them with drugs that are laced on purpose or by accident with fentanyl.
Right.
I mean, go down the list of things. We take PE out of the schools. What the fuck are we doing? Like, I just don't get it. There's a bunch of people in Congress, in the Senate. Their job is to level up this country. It's a fucking joke. The other thing that pisses me off is when we post anything like this, you get this cast of characters that respond socially. We need freedom. That's ridiculous. It would be freedom. Like,
No.
Of course we want freedom. But what I don't understand is, are we okay with 10-year-olds driving? No. Right? There are some rules in place.
Absolutely.
We should wear a seatbelt.
Right.
I don't know. We probably shouldn't shoot up heroin every day. Right? So there's some rules that are okay. Right. Well, we also shouldn't have 8,000 calorie Slurpees.
Those 8,000 calorie Slurpees and the access on your phone to how pornography changes kids' brain. When we were little, we would see National Geographic like, oh my gosh. And then we maybe come across some dad's friend you heard he's got a Playboy.
Right.
But now by the time a kid is 13 or 14 years old, they've been exposed to thousands of graphic images that are beyond how they evolutionary could be. Okay, so we're having simulated sex at a young age. We're having simulated violence. We're having simulated friends. We're having simulated foods. It's not even real food. Yeah. It's cottonseed. Like it's stuff that was made for an engine is now in a seed oil that's in your Pop-Tart while you're watching somebody else do a sport, somebody else fall in love, somebody else have sex, somebody else fight, while you're sitting by yourself posting a picture of you looking happy. And it's the exact opposite. This connected device is a division.
Listen, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, send an email, joe@spartan.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we change this. But
that's where We're Coming for Your Couch came from.
Yeah.
So I'm working at a school, first school with kids on the autism thing. And that's the thing that we ended up going to Saudi Arabia, doing a talk on that. That was a pretty cool thing. You sent me a t-shirt. Yeah. So I got to go out there and talk to them about this new idea of like, hey, maybe we should do skill exchanges between people on the autism spectrum and wheelchair people. And that was going. So in that environment, I met a young man named Dalton. He was a big, sweet, goofy guy. He's 22 years old. And he's like, Zach, I think I want to do a Spartan race, but I think I'm too chunky. I'm like, I'm chunky. You're fine. If you can keep up with the wheelchair, you can keep up with us. You'll be fine. And Dalton's like, all right, let's do it. 2 weeks later, I'm back. Like, hey, where's Dalton at? Like, Dalton overdosed. Oh my God. So I go to his funeral and I talk about it. His best friend, Chris. Chris is there. He was saying, this is my best friend. We spent all this time together. And I was so at the talking at the funeral, I said, I think we want to carry a couch in his honor through a Spartan race. Because these guys, they love to hang out on the couch. They love to socialize on it. They would buy used couches and then upsell them. Say, look at this beauty, they would, while they were getting in recovery. And so Dalton's like, before Dalton, we were going to carry a couch. And Chris and I made a plan. And before Chris and I can complete that plan, Chris also overdosed on fentanyl.
My goodness.
So I spoke at Chris's funeral with his family and said, we're going to carry a couch through. And so this last April 7th, we carried a couch for Dalton because we called it the DC 2023. His mom, his dad, his sister, and some of Dalton's family, they all came out of that race. We picked that couch up, we put it on our shoulders, and we were carrying it for those that are lost, for Dalton and Chris, and for those that are still stuck. Because that couch is the symbol of that cocoon and that comfort. We need to leave the couch and move into community. So carrying it, we carried that all the way through the race, and we took it through all the obstacles. And so if I can get a quadriplegic through a race, if I can help somebody that's blind, that's missing limbs through a race, so we can help somebody, spinal cord injury, different mental health challenges through a race, we can certainly also get a couch to the race. If we can do a couch and a wheelchair, we're coming for your couch. We could come and get you. We need to meet people where they are. I know you want to rip all those people off the couches, but some of the people are so entrenched, they're so interconnected to their couch that the idea of ripping them off of it is so overwhelming.
You and I were talking about, I'm going to get my buddy who owns Lovesack. He's the founder of Lovesack. Right. I'm going to see if he can install a siren that if you've sat too long on the couch, the siren goes off. Maybe it even sends via an app to your friends. Get Zach off the couch.
He's been on there for days. A couple episodes of Fallout, sure. Right. But if the television says to you, "Are you still watching?" and your Apple Watch says it's time to stand up, it might be time. Time to get up. Yeah. It's okay to have that comfort and connection, especially with loved ones, and you're sharing, something together. I mean, if you and I were to go do a race together, and at the end of the day, we might sit on the couch afterwards.
5 guys.
Yeah, 5 guys and it's a couch.
Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, Peaky Blinders is one of my favorite shows. That's okay, but we earned it. Right. But we're also having fellowship where if you and I were hanging out, because we're of that generation, we would be talking with each other, not looking at our phones. If I get to spend time with you, I want to spend actual time with you and vice versa. That's a different connection.
Last time we spent a lot of time together, you had me duct taped in a wheelchair being pushed around a 15, 16-mile course in Ohio. It was cold. For those of you thankfully, who are not in a wheelchair,
Right.
God forbid, it's hard work because you can't move. And so
Right.
you're not moving blood and you're not staying warm.
Right.
And then you got to pee.
Yeah.
And then you're coming close to an edge of water thinking, shit, if I fall in, I'm
Right.
dead. That was a tough day.
Well, you took on the challenge. Michael Mills challenged you to race in a wheelchair. Michael's my best friend. And you showing up for that, you ended up getting a chair for us. We had 3 chairs. Tim was in a chair, Michael was in his chair, and then you were in a chair called Excalibur. And this was the big break in my life. Like, oh my God, I got Joe Sena in a chair. I'm tied to him. What a great opportunity. And you're like, I got to pee. Like, with Joe, if you want to pee, you can either kneel and pee, or I could calf you. You're like, I guess I'll kneel. I know. So about a mile and a half into it, we're grooving. Everything's going great. Michael's front left wheel breaks off his chair.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I had this incredible opportunity to be with you, but I looked at you and said, my godparent, my godfather of my kid, and then eventually he's now the board of our directors, Chris Green. I trust him with my life. I'm putting him on the back of your chair. See ya. I got to go get Michael.
Yeah.
And you stayed in that chair throughout. It hailed that day. It snowed. It was hot. It was cold. It was Ohio weather.
It's crazy.
It was not a super. It was supposed to be a super. That thing was like a beast.
I remember we all right, mile 8. Here we go.
Well, it kept going and going. But what always changed? The reason that I continue to connect with you is after the race was over, you could have left. You had things to do, but you knew that Mike and I were still on the course.
Yeah.
And you knew we were doing, and you knew how hard it was, but we were doing it with 3 wheels. And so as we came to the end, you're looking at me like, I can't believe you did that. There's a few times where you're like, I can't believe you did that. You did that. Okay, you did. And so I'm like, all right. And so you picked Michael up, put him on my back, and we jumped over the fire.
Yeah.
I think that was a life-changing moment, not just for us as a company. Now we have that chair, and we set records of that chair, done incredible things with that chair you gave us. But more than that, I think it has set a concrete sense of empathy in your mind that changed fundamentally who you are and how you see, that has changed not just Spartan and Tough Mudder. It's impacted.
You got to walk
a lot of people.
You got to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes,
or 18
miles in somebody else's wheelchair.
Bumpy, horrible things. So that shift happened. I was just with Michael this weekend doing another thing. He wanted to do 100 miles in his day chair because the power chair is the symbol of lack of power. Once you can't operate it yourself, you have to use the power chair. And eventually it's going to happen. It's going to happen to Michael at some point. His wrists, the surgeries, the shoulders. It's no matter how big and strong he is, at some point he's going to have to use a power chair. But he's like, before that happens, I want to do 100 miles in 24 hours.
And he got it done.
He got it done. I got to ride with him on my bike next to him. So we've got this idea of the couch, of carrying it through it and changing these people's lives. But we need to connect to where they are, how they got there. So we're creating a standard operating procedure for the next 4 races we're going to do, maybe 5. But we've got possibly up in Massachusetts in August. We got the race in August in Asheville. Then we've got a race in Tennessee. Then we're coming down for Worlds. Those are all Spartans.
World Toughest Mudder.
Then we're going to do World Toughest Mudder first lap. And then we're going to do the last race of the year. And hopefully you'll be here with us for that. In Florida. So this year, our couch is going to earn its trifecta.
I love it.
And we're also going to be part of the Tough Mudder thing. But after we get this done, we really figure out how to do this and do it right. We don't want to just do it for this year. We want to make it much bigger so that I can go on the road, hopefully with my wife one day, to every school, every church, every group in celebration before Spartan Race, saying, let's get out here. Let's all go to do this together and talk about the risks of that. Obesity starts with one little Twinkie. It's a 1 Twinkie habit. Now it's a 2 Twinkie. Now it's because that's ever increasing desire.
Yeah.
You add the Twinkie plus the brain hits of the stuff, and all of a sudden people are not having they're not getting into fights, but they're not getting into friendship either. Because when we were kids,
we got 10 million friends we can lend people.
Yeah, that'd be great,
right? I mean, you're right. When we were kids, it was different. When
we would, if we talk trash to each other, you'd get into a fight with somebody, and then they become your brother.
Yeah, we played outside.
You worked it out. You physically worked it through. You felt them, smelt them, and heard them, and realized, okay, I do respect you. You stood up to me. I stood up to you, and then you got their back. Well, if you just keyboard warrior
nonsense,
nothing comes from typing cruelty. Nothing comes from ordering food consistently. It takes
Uber Eats.
It takes real food, real relationships, real connections, and the place to do it is a Spartan Race or a Tough Mudder. Like having that on the calendar
Changes you and I know this changes everything.
Jelly Roll, you came out to the 5K out in LA. That was awesome. You ran that with Bert, started this charity called More Heart Than Scars. What are we doing with Jelly Roll?
What we want you to do is to help us carry a couch. We've already carried a couch to a Spartan race because, as you said and testified, that every 5 minutes somebody is overdosing, usually fentanyl related. So we're carrying that couch to represent the people that are stuck. Some of us are stuck because of what we eat. Some of us are stuck because of the sadness and brokenness in our lives. And some people we've lost. So we're carrying it for those we've lost and for those that we love, and to get people to get unstuck. And seeing you'll be out there with amputees, you'll be out there with veterans, you'll be out there with Joe, you'll be out there with me, carrying that couch through, because we rather carry your couch than your coffin. Let's change lives.
Imagine a new Jelly Roll couch that's like a bed of rusted nails. You can lay as long as you want.
It's like, oh my God, let's do it. We're coming for your couch.
All right, well, where are you headed next? Tomorrow, Tampa.
Tomorrow we got a race in Tampa. And then 2 weekends from now, we're starting a version of More Heart Than Scars on the West Coast. So I'll be out in California. Got the schedule coming out. People can follow what we're doing for this couch. They need to go to yourcouch.org. That way you can sign up to race with us with the couch, and we'll work that out for people to help carry the couch.
Yeah.
Also, people can then, they can pray for us, donate, or decide to be a part of it, because we want to make this a national thing that once we get a standing operating procedure of how to do this, then we want to go not just More Heart Than Scars, not just Spartan. I was with a really cool guy the other day, and I was like, hey, we're talking about neat ideas. I go, so going to the Spartan Temple. Like, the guy really knew about Spartan, didn't know about us, didn't know whatever. Yeah. I said, we're carrying a couch. Why are you carrying a couch? I go, we're carrying a couch because every 5 minutes, somebody overdoses on, usually fentanyl related. He goes, I lost my brother last year. He goes, what can I do to help? I said,
let's go.
Let's go. That's it. That's the thing. So every 5 minutes, somebody isn't signing up for a Spartan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every 5 minutes. And in this 30 minutes that we're talking.
Yeah. People are dying.
They're dying. And so we rather carry your couch than your coffin. Joe, I'm grateful that you have showed up in our lives and made More Heart Than Scars. You put us on the map, and you've given us the tools, and it challenged us to go harder and farther than we thought.
Get out there. You'll be inspired. Do something with Zach and his crew. Carry a couch, carry a wheelchair. Just get the fuck off the couch.
Get the fuck off the couch.
All right. You guys are awesome.